Have you ever heard of a dog saving a life by dialing 911? Sounds like a movie plot, right? But what if I told you this happened to a real woman, a widow living alone in a quiet rural town outside Yorkshire? This isn't just a tale of loyalty. It's a jaw-dropping, heart-pounding, and ultimately heartwarming story about one woman's bond with her dog, a tragedy she never saw coming, and the life-saving trick that turned her pet into a hero. If you think dogs are just cute companions, you might want to sit down for this one. And before you go further, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? Your city, your country. I love seeing where all the dog lovers are tuning in from. Margaret Winslow was 67, retired, and had lived alone ever since her husband Harold passed away 3 winters ago. They'd been married 42 years, the kind of old-school love that warmed your heart just hearing about it. When he died suddenly of a heart attack while tending to their backyard roses, Margaret's world dimmed. The laughter left the house. The dinners became silent, and nights, they stretched long and cold. Her daughter, Susan, lived 2 states away in Vermont and visited when she could, but it wasn't often. Life was busy. Margaret tried knitting, gardening, even joined a book club at the local library, but nothing filled that heavy silence. She felt invisible, like she was fading into the wallpaper of her own home. Then came Samson. Samson wasn't her first choice. Her neighbor's niece, a young nurse named Emily, had to move to Australia for work and was rehoming her 1-year-old black Labrador Golden Retriever mix. "He's too much energy for an old lady like me," Margaret joked. But when she met Samson, something changed. He wasn't just energetic. He was attentive, gentle, and when she sat alone on the couch, he would curl up beside her, resting his head on her lap, like he somehow knew her heart still ached. They became inseparable. Walks every morning, warm tea and biscuits in the garden, TV nights. Samson learned Margaret's routines. He'd wake her with a nudge if she overslept. He barked when the kettle boiled too long, and when she cried softly in her armchair one night, missing Harold, Samson licked the tears from her cheek and rested his head against her chest. She wasn't alone anymore. One afternoon, something odd happened that would later seem like fate. Margaret had watched a documentary on service dogs, with Samson napping beside her. It featured a dog trained to dial 911 using a special pad. Curious and amused, she chuckled, nudging Samson playfully. "Maybe you ought to learn that too, in case I ever fall and can't get up." What started as a joke became a fun little routine. Margaret dug out an old children's toy phone with oversized buttons. With a bit of help from a handyman friend at her local seniors club, she rewired it to connect to a speed dial setup on her landline. It was primitive, but clever. One big red button was linked directly to emergency services. "Red means rescue, Samson. Paw it when you see me down." They practiced every morning after breakfast. She'd lie on the rug, groan dramatically, and Samson, tail wagging like this was the best game ever, would trot over and press the red button with his paw. A toy siren would sound, and she'd clap, laugh, and reward him with a biscuit and a cheerful, "You're my little hero." Neighbors laughed when she told them. Some even rolled their eyes. "You're turning that dog into Lassie." But for Margaret, it was more than a party trick. It gave her peace of mind. It made her feel less vulnerable, and it gave her and Samson a mission, a connection beyond companionship. Still, part of her doubted it would ever matter, until the day her heart betrayed her. It started like any other rainy Tuesday. She woke to the tap-tap-tap of drizzle on the windows, brewed her tea, and fed Samson. The house was quiet, warm. Margaret had just finished her tea and was heading toward the hallway to fetch her knitting, when her vision blurred. A sharp pain shot through her chest. Her knees buckled. She collapsed, her cheek hitting the hardwood floor. She tried to call out, nothing but a wheeze. Her fingers trembled. Her legs refused to move. Panic surged. Then, click, 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 the sound of claws on wood. Samson. She felt his cold nose against her hand. He whimpered. "Go," she gasped. "Red button." And then the world began to spin. Samson looked at her, really looked, and then bolted. He ran through the hall, skidded around the corner, and slammed his paw onto the red button. "Beep, dialing 911, the operator answered. All they could hear was a dog barking wildly, the sound of a faint gurgling voice in the background, and the scrape of paws. But the system automatically traced the call. Dispatch sent paramedics immediately. 7 minutes later, an ambulance pulled into Margaret's driveway. The EMTs had to break in through the side door. There she was, barely conscious, Samson standing protectively over her, growling softly as they approached, until he realized they were helpers. "Easy, boy," one paramedic said gently, kneeling down. "We're gonna help her." They stabilized Margaret, administered oxygen, and rushed her to the hospital. She had suffered a massive heart attack. When EMT later told her, voice thick with emotion, "Mum, if your dog hadn't called when he did, you wouldn't be here." Word spread fast. The local paper called it a miracle. Dog dials 911, saves widow's life. National TV shows picked it up. One even invited her to New York. Margaret declined. She didn't want fame, but she did agree to a short interview from her garden. Samson sitting proudly beside her, with a red collar and a big goofy smile. When asked what she thought of her four-legged hero, she simply said, "I thought I saved him. Turns out he was always meant to save me." Margaret now volunteers twice a week at the local animal shelter, helping older residents find senior dogs for companionship. She gives talks at the library about elderly care. And yes, how to teach your dog to dial 911. She and Samson were awarded a Community Hero Medal. At the town fair, every morning, she sits on her porch with Samson at her feet, a cup of tea in hand, and watches the sunrise. She often thinks of Harold, but now she smiles, because life gave her a second chance, and the angel that brought it wore fur. If this story warmed your heart, made you tear up, or reminded you how deeply animals can love us, share it with someone who needs a little faith in the world. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life, emotional, and inspiring stories, just like this one. Tell us in the comments, what's the smartest or most heartwarming thing your dog has ever done? We'd love to hear your story next.